Chris Quilon is the co-founder of Stoop's NYC, the first licensed cannabis dispensary in Manhattan's Flatiron district. A native New Yorker with an entrepreneurial mindset from an early age, Chris spent time in California's legal cannabis market before returning home to pursue the opportunity to open a card social equity dispensary. He is focused on building a community-driven retail experience that reflects the culture and energy of New York. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Herb, for having me. Excited to be here.
All right, well, thank you. So now you're a New York native who built a licensed cannabis dispensary in one of Manhattan's most iconic neighborhoods. Take us back. Where did you grow up? How did you come to open a dispensary in the very fancy Flatiron district?
Oh man, I don't know where to start, but I grew up in the Bronx, Soundview specifically, and I moved to Fordham, and how so when I was younger, I had some exposure to legacy market in New York. What really pulled me in was it wasn't just the product; it was like the connection. Cannabis was always about community relationships and culture. Then I got the opportunity to go out to California to work in the legal market, and honestly, it blew my mind. I saw cannabis fully corporatized, structured, and systems in place.
First started thinking, that this is that cannabis might be a place where you could make a career and succeed.
Yes, yes, because I saw the real need for cannabis. People coming in, some people had cancer, some people had anxiety, some people needed better sleep, and learning about all these minor cannabinoids, it just blew my mind. Because as you when you're younger, you smoke weed and it gets you high, and it's just like you don't really understand it. Like sometimes we get you hungry, sometimes we get you tired, sometimes it calms you down, sometimes it gets you excited. You don't understand what's happening in the background, so being part of the legal market in California, it helped. It helped learn.
So let's talk about this, the name Stoops. For anyone who didn't really grow up in New York, explain what the Stoop is and what the word means to you personally, and why did you feel it was the right name for the business?
So Stoops is the front of a building. It's iconic New York footsteps for like the brownstones and buildings and all around. And growing up, I grew up in a very humble setting, and the connection was the stoop. Hanging out on the stoop, hanging out with friends and family, doing barbecues, having therapy moments. All that came together, and when we was thinking about the name of the dispensary, we was trying to think about, we didn't want to call it like cannabis or anything because we didn't want to get flagged by bankings and everything. So we decided Stoop was a good fit for this dispensary. It brought people together under one roof.
So what does it mean to you, though? What does the name sort of conjure in your mind?
So when I think about Stoops, I think about New York energy, like growing up in New York, the whole culture, and I don't. You only know about it if you grew up in New York. You will understand the Stoop if you're from New York. So I felt like to me it was a good representation of the culture coming to New York, actual people from New York, building a dispensary in New York. So,
I know, and it's where everybody who lived there hung out, right? Whether it was little kids or seniors, right? Everybody was sitting outside on the stoop.
right, exactly.
So now, Stoops is described as a Latinx owned business that reflects the creativity, resilience, and culture of New York City. How much of your own cultural identity and background is baked into the DNA of this dispensary?
Oh, I feel like all of it, all of it. It's the branding, the vibe when you come inside. It's the people that work in the store is from all people from walks of life. So it's completely immersed in the branding. So
So now you just described the store as a place where conversations sparked ideas and neighbors became family. How intentional was it to build a dispensary that feels like a community gathering spot? More like a community gathering spot than a retail store.
it was very intentional because being that all the dispensaries have like the same products, offer the same you know, like products, what makes us different from each other. So It's the vibe, it's the experience. Because you could get weed anywhere. You know, you could get a Caminos on 14th Street, you could get a Caminos on 42nd Street. But why do people come to Stoops? Because they feel good when they come. They leave with more than what they thought they were gonna leave with, and the connection is always there. So
And what do you mean by that? That they leave with more than what they thought they were going to come?
they leave with a more positive vibe. You know, maybe we might have a good deal there where they intended to spend $20 and they get $30 worth of stuff. So
Now, cannabis, as you know, has a complicated history in communities of color, including enforcement that disproportionately impacted Latino and Black communities. So, as someone who's building, a business in this space, how do you think about the weight of that history, and what does it mean to you to be on this side of legalization?
it's a dream come true, to be honest. Being on one side of the fence and going through basically building the whole industry on one side, and then being part of this side, creating history on a more positive note, is just like the dream, to be honest.
Yeah. So, and how long have you had that dream? What is that? Where does that come from?
Oh man, I had that dream since I'm 39 years old, so 22, 23. you know
Now, you've talked about attending cannabis farmers markets and personally building relationships with growers and brands. How hands on is your curation process, and what are you actually looking for when deciding what to put on your shelves?
I'm super hands-on. Like when it comes to flower, I'm looking for terps, I'm looking for smell, I'm looking for high, I'm looking for structure. If I'm acting like I'm my own customer. Like, what would I be looking for if I was coming in? What would I want to smoke? So, I wouldn't try to sell anything to somebody that I wouldn't buy myself.
All right. Now, I understand that getting on social media wasn't exactly a natural first instinct for you, and that you were a little bit reluctant about doing your social media. Now, walk us through that. Like, what was holding you back?
Um, I think I was always camera shy since young, and I was never a camera guy to begin with. And I give that credit a lot to Julia, which is my social media specialist. She was always saying, "Chris, you gotta get on it. You gotta get on social media. The people gotta know who you are. The people gotta know who you are." So, you know, in the beginning, I was. If you look at my past videos, you could tell I was super nervous and shy and stuff like that. But little by little, I got acclimated to it, and it's been nothing but helpful to me. I'm connecting with people more easily. People feel more comfortable walking up to me. I'm more approachable in certain settings, so it helped me a lot.
How do you think it's impacted the business? Like, what were examples of people coming in and talking about some of the spots?
They basically say, "Oh, I saw your post. It was so funny. Oh, you made me laugh, and oh, I related to this. I related to what you said, and I'm a native New Yorker too. I'm happy. Somebody from New York is here on Fifth Avenue. Somebody truly from New York, not an MSO acting like they from New York, man. So it definitely helped me connect with people more.
So, is there anything that surprised you the most about how social media has actually helped you, build that customer base?
Um, I definitely was surprised at how people responded to social media. I didn't really think I was gonna get that kind of response, and it's been a blessing. It's been nothing but a blessing.
And you include your staff. How had they sort of handled it?
They love it. They love it, and sometimes they don't want to do it, and but they end up getting around to it, and it actually helps them too as well. So now when they go out and they go to networking meeting parties, and they get noticed really fast, and a lot of them got opportunities in other places because they saw them on Instagram. So, I like to. It feels good knowing that Stoops is a catalyst for people around me, not only myself.
All right. So now Stoops holds a card license, correct?
Yes.
So for people who don't know what a card license is, can you explain it, and also what it means to you personally to have become a card licensee?
So CARD is conditional adult use retail dispensary, and it's meant for social equity people to get in first. What it means to me, it means everything because being from having some experience in California, they didn't give social equity a chance in the beginning. So New York definitely did a great job in giving social equity first, and before the big guys came in, and it really does mean the world to me and other people like me as well.
And also that you one of the criteria was that you had to have been justice involved and had business experience prior to that. What was your business experience prior to?
I ran e-commerce and I had experience in California, but I have a partner. His name is Victor Rodriguez. So he's another Puerto Rican from the Bronx, and he had a lot more business experience than me, and that helped us rank high in the application process. So I always got caught smoking weed when I was young, um, one too many times, so that helped. Who would have knew? And he also got caught smoking weed as well, and he has ran like 5 6 different businesses, so that definitely helped with the application process.
Now, New York's legal cannabis rollout has been a little bumpy to say the least. As someone who got licensed and was able to open for sales, today, what's your honest take on where the New York industry, stands?
I think the intentions were good, but the execution was a little mixed. On one hand, New York deserves credit for prioritizing social equity. A lot of other states talked about it, but didn't actually put those operators first. But New York did, and that definitely matters. At the same time, I think there were gaps in the system that was built. For example, you had dispensaries opening very close to each other. Also, like we have a massive tax burden on us, and it's a couple things that there's a couple hiccups, but I feel like New York could turn this around. They could really resuscitate the situation.
Well, if you could give some advice to the governor or to the new acting executive director, what would that advice be?
If I had the ears of regulators, I'll focus on a few things immediately, starting with 280E. So at the federal level, we need relief there. It's one of the biggest barriers to operatives actually becoming sustainable.
And
Until
it's
that,
IRS code.
IRS to 280E is killing us. It's completely killing us.
Mhm.
So, at the state level, I look at the market structure. I think there needs to be better spacing between dispensaries. For example, maybe the grandfather dispensaries, 1,000 feet is cool, but moving forward, I think 1,500 feet away from each other would be a better situation for dispensaries to succeed.
Mhm.
Enforcement is another big one. The illicit market is still very active, and if legal operators are following the rules, there has to be a level playing field. That means consistent enforcement. And there's another topic, but it's a bit sensitive. But I guess I'll vaguely address it as well. Especially around some of the Dasney back locations, there are operatives who are struggling quietly, and I think restructuring those deals or even converting portions into grants will go a long way in stabilizing the market. So, those were the three things I would tackle was the 280E, the enforcement, and then having some better structuring around the Dasney locations.
Are you a DASNY, which is Dormitory Authority of the State of New York? Are you a DASNY location?
Yes, I am.
All right. So now, if you're sitting down for this same conversation, 5 years from now, so what would Stoops NYC look like? What would what would Chris look like? What would you be proud of the most? 5 years from now.
I would be proud of having multiple locations, moving from state to state,
Mhm.
being a resource for people of social equity culture and from that type of community. I would definitely love to be a resource and maybe an example that there is light at the end of the tunnel if you work hard and you try to do the right thing. But it has to go both ways. The state kind of has to make it easier for us to get there as well.
All right, Chris. So where can people find out more about Stoops NYC and the stuff that you're working on?
You can always follow us on Instagram at stoops.nyc. That will have all our events and you could keep up to date with our posts, laugh a little bit. And we're located at 182 Fifth Avenue, New York City, in the prestigious Flatiron neighborhood.
Well, thank you for your time today, Chris Quillan, co-founder of Stoops NYC. Thank you.